Okay, we ready? Okay. Welcome to our board meeting, September 25th. I have 6:01. Call to order. I'm sorry, roll call. Present.
Present.
Okay. Mr. Beckett, could I get you to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I noticed you're going to get comfortable, so. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, adoption of the agenda.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the agenda with the lone amendment of pulling the minutes out of the consent.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Call to the public.
Wow.
I'm sure they're all jumping in their seats at home, screaming at the TV set.
Me.
All right, let's go on to our superintendent's report. Dr. Chestnut.
I have a few things to share tonight. And the first thing is our student representative report from Sydney Akers. So I will turn my portion of the program over to Sydney at this time. Sydney, I'm not sure if that mic is on. You might want to turn it on just in case. This one, yeah.
Yeah, it's on.
Okay.
I want to apologize for not being here last time, my fault. We actually have a lot going on at the high school right now. We have, I believe it's 3 weeks until homecoming, so that's really exciting. And as of right now, we're trying to get the community really involved in our homecoming this year. So Thursday night, the 17th, is our Powder Puff football game. So right now, the kids are selling shirts for $10 to raise awareness for breast cancer and so that they can support their girls playing or friends playing or whatever the case may be. So we're selling those shirts for $10. They're pink on black or black on pink, so they're really cool looking. We also have that day during the Powder Puff game in between. So at halftime, we're going to have a community pep rally. So we're going to have groups come out and walk the track and try to get everybody out and really excited for homecoming. Friday the 18th is homecoming, so it's a really busy day. We have the pep rally for school, so we get out at like 1:15, I think it is, and then we have like an hour-long pep rally. And then right after that, the kids will filter out of the pep rally into the carnival, which we have set up for students and for the entire community. So we want to try to get as many people possible out. We have a bunch of cool rides that we have purchased, things such as the zip line or other cool rides like that. And then after that is the game. So we want to keep everyone from the carnival to the game, so everyone will be rammed out because it is now official Ram Pride Day, as we have had the mayor proclaim, which is actually really cool. And then right after the game, we have our homecoming dance from 9 to midnight. So it's a jam-packed Ram Day. We have created Spirit Weeks for not just Maricopa High School, but MUSD as a whole. So that week, we have a Spirit Week of Monday is going to be Mismatch Day. So kind of like crazy clothes, crazy hair, whatever you can think of. Tuesday is Sports Day, so you can wear your favorite team sports jersey or your sports jersey or whatever the case may be. Wednesday is Camo Day, so we call it boot camp, so camouflage, like anything kind of like that. Thursday is Pink, because that is our Powder Puff Day, so we want to support as much breast cancer as possible. And then Friday, of course, is Ram Pride Day. So that's homecoming week. Last week was our first home football game. We had the freshman football frenzy. It was blackout. Our boys won. We're very proud. This week's game, we've started to theme our football games. So this week is neon, which I think is going to be really cool. So 80s neon, have everyone dress up like that. Our DECA chapter just came back from Leadership Development Camp, which we call DECA Olympics in Heber, Arizona. We went Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And we got to do a lot of cool things where we meet other chapters and kind of bond us together and then bond with other chapters and get great ideas. And it was just a lot of fun and really team building and becoming better leaders as a whole. But other than that, I think that's all. Do you have any questions for me? No? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sydney. A lot of stuff going on at the high school. An update on our Occhim partnership, the grant application. I did some fine-tuning on that, sent it back to our attorney. Jill Osborne is helping us with that, working with the Occhim attorney, and so we are making progress and hope to bring that final addition to you soon.
Could you quantify soon?
Fairly soon.
Sometime before the grant expires?
Yes, as soon as possible. We are trying to get this done, and we think that now that the city's portion is finalized, that the attorney can put all of our attention on this and we'll get it done. Some other good news, we just received our 2013 Maricopa High School ACT scores. This is the test that students that are thinking of going on to college or university take, generally in their senior year, and these are only the scores from students that graduated last spring. The other test that students take is the SAT, and sometimes they take both, kind of depends on what college you're going to apply for and that kind of thing. But it was very exciting to see that on the 4 tests that the students took, we were above the Arizona State average on 3 out of the 4. And last year, actually, we were above on 4 out of 4, so that's a good trend. We hope to continue that. A lot of good work being done in our college prep program at Maricopa High School and getting kids ready for college and university. And it's nice to see that trend line there on those ACT scores. And we had a very large number of students, for us, take the test. We had about 72 students, seniors, take the test, and the previous high for us was like 36, which I think is really good because it really just shows we have more kids thinking about college and university. And you don't have to take this test to go to Central Arizona College. And we know a lot of our students end up there. That's the biggest group goes to that college because it's very accessible. And they may take the SAT and then decide, well, I'm going to go to CAC, which is great, which is fine, nothing wrong with that. But they're thinking about what they want to do, which is probably the best news of all, planning for college, and this is part of that planning process. And more of them are doing that. I wanted to give you an update on this slide. Our Race to the Top federal grant, it's the same slide you saw last meeting. It is due on October 3rd, and Casa Grande Elementary is an official partner. And this is going to be I forgot to change the slide, a preschool through grade 8 application. And that works out very well with Casa Grande Elementary because they don't have high school. And it will be technology-based, personalized learning environments, making better use of handheld devices by our students in grades 3 through 8. Ideally, we'd give every single one of those students a device that they would use, kind of like in our blended learning program. A lot of other things that are in there, but very competitive. And, after reflecting back on my report 2 weeks ago, I kind of made it sound like, you applied 2 or 3 times for this and then you get it. Well, I didn't really mean to imply that. In my previous district, that did happen. We received about a $30 million grant after applying for 3 or 4 times, and it was a consortium with other districts, and, in that case, it worked. But there were, I think, I looked at the numbers today, about 5% of the districts that applied last year were awarded a grant, so you have a 1 in 20 chance. But we're going to keep trying. We think we have a good application, and our consultant, Howard Zolte, is amazing. The guy is a good writer, and he's a great mathematician and a computer programmer, and he can put this thing together. The application itself will be 120 pages long. We're gathering letters of support. The mayor said that he would submit one. Troy Anderson wrote one. Our association president, Lorena Kelly, wrote one. And then we've also requested one from State Superintendent Huppenthal. And his office said that he would provide one if his staff agreed that this was a viable application, and we think it is, and we think that he'll provide us with a letter. So we're excited about that. And we're going to turn it in and see what happens. On the 20th, last Friday, Maricopa High School Rams defeated Arcadia of Scottsdale, 12-7. I was there. It was a great game and very well played by the Rams. Arcadia was 3-0. They hadn't lost a game, and so it was a good win for the Rams. And I also meant to have a slide to remind everybody that this Friday is Youth Night. So students, I believe 12 and under, that have a sports jersey of any kind can get in for free. And last year, it was a huge turnout, and it was fun. They had the kids line up and make the tunnel at halftime and that kind of thing, and it was a good way to involve our younger students in the fun and excitement of high school football. Also had a chance to attend a volleyball match. It was either last week or, I think it was last week, and we have a good volleyball team too, so a lot of good athletic stuff going on at the high school, which is always fun. Last night in this very room, we had the Pinell County ASBA workshop. It's an annual event. Last year it was in Oracle, and I still haven't recovered from that drive. It was so long. Much shorter drive last night, and Tori acted as our facilitator and leader of the event last night. And that picture is Tim Ogle, the executive director of ASBA, and Senator McGuire. And we also had 2 representatives. We had the county attorney and we had the county superintendent in attendance. And it was a good program, great food. Suzette Moe and her staff did a great job on the food. And the grounds looked great because the grounds crew just did a really nice job making everything look good outside. And this room really was transformed. So it was a very nice event. Got a lot of compliments on it and enjoyed having that event here. The big news from that event is that Tori was elected to a regular term on the ESB board. You were appointed last year for 1 year, and now it's a 2-year term.
2 years.
She won the election last night, and then both Tori and Patty were recognized for continuing education with ASBA. So it was a great evening all the way around. In case you don't know, on the 28th is the 4th annual Maricopa High School Rams football golf tournament at Southern Dunes. I played last year, and it's a big event. I was on Aaron's team last year, so his team didn't have a chance to win. I'm not going to be on his team this year, so his team is probably the odds-on favorite to win this thing because Mr. Roush is a good golfer, and he tends to recruit good golfers to play with him. And so I don't know what he was thinking last year, but anyway, it's a great event. Corey Nienaber and Tom Dugan, really Tom Dugan is the brains behind this, and Patty Dugan, they spent hours on this thing, and they think they'll raise more money than ever at this tournament, and they're trying to turn the Booster Club and this event into an all-sports Booster Club and make this one of the big fundraisers for an all-sports Booster Club, which I think is a great idea. They're trying to get more corporate sponsors this year. I think they have the maximum number of teams signed up. I think the number is 36 is the maximum number, I believe, something like that, 32. But whatever it is, it's maximum. So ideally, they're hoping maybe even next year we could use the Duke at the same time and take up both golf courses and make it bigger and better. And anyway, Tom Dugan has big plans like that. So it's a great event. It was last year. Looking forward to it this year. And I'm looking forward just to participating, and Mr. Roush is looking forward to winning the event because he's competitive. He's a competitive guy. In this very room on the 17th, we had the final city council meeting. I don't think I reported on this last time. They are now in their new city hall, as you know, and so it was a fun evening. They left all of us very nice thank you notes and certificates. They gave me a set also, so those were at your place tonight. They wanted me to make sure you received those. They were very gracious in thanking us for letting us use this facility for a number of years, and I know it worked well for them. But it was just a great night because the main event, really, at least from my perspective, was they passed a resolution declaring Paint the Town Red Week, as Sydney just mentioned, and declaring Friday Ram Day in honor of homecoming. And so I knew they were going to do that, but I did not expect to see like 30 or 40 or 50 students all dressed in red here, and Sydney was leading the way, of course, with that group. It was the leadership class, I believe, or the ASB council, student council. Cheerleaders were in uniform, all of them, and we had both Ram mascots. I didn't know we had more than one, but we had both of them here. What's that? Okay, I didn't know they had names. Okay, Rambo and Ramette were here, so you were learning something. And then, so they passed the resolution, and then all the students and the mascots came up on the stage, and I think they presented the proclamation certificate to Sydney, right? And then Sydney made an excellent speech to the entire audience, which was a packed house. The wall was open, and she was just talking about what a great week it was going to be, and did a great promo for homecoming week. And so, anyway, a lot of excitement that night. So we're going to bring you more information about homecoming in 2 weeks, so you'll have all the latest information for homecoming week. And that's all I have.
I'm exhausted already. It's a lot going on. Thank you. Governing board member reports. Okay, I'll start. Last night's meeting, Dr. Chestnut already talked about it, but it was extremely successful. The Arizona School Board Association was highly impressed with our staff and the facilities and just the way the whole meeting went. So I really, big shout out to Michelle Garcia, who pretty much planned the whole thing. I just showed up. So it was great. Dr. Chestnut did a nice job, and the food was phenomenal. We are the best county so far that had the best food, so I think we'll maintain that status. So it was a great opportunity for our school district to showcase what we have. Not only facilities, but staff. And the orchestra played beautifully. I know that the kids have a lot going on, and so it really meant a lot to have them here. So it was a great turnout. We had about 45 people end up here, so it was a fabulous turnout. And all the representatives that came out and our elected officials, it was a great showing. So it was amazing. So thank you to everybody. I do also want to mention, last week we had one of our staff members who passed away, so I wanted to make sure that Nancy Mullen's family knew that the board was thinking of her family, and our prayers and thoughts are with them, so she will be missed. And that's all I have.
Okay. Well, President Anderson and myself also attended a training session down at ASBA. We are really trying to move forward with our advocacy efforts in getting our community members, parents, and staff to contact our legislators, to actually even just at the local level be advocates for their students. So we are working towards that goal, and we're going to be hopefully reaching out to all the PTOs and site councils shortly and going to the meetings and letting them know how they can be involved. That's it.
Nicely stated.
Thank you.
Anything from you, Mrs. Knorr? No? Mr. Bartle? All right, we'll move on. Information items, work study, Dr. Chestnut.
This time I'd like to introduce Mr. Andy McClellan from Smart Schools Plus, and had an opportunity to hear a similar presentation a few weeks ago, so I'd like to turn it over to him at this time, and here is the clicker that you probably need.
I apologize ahead of time. Most things in this world aren't made for somebody 6'11". I can see this mic stand isn't any different, so I'll try to speak up for you. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Chestnut. My name is Andy McClelland, and I'm delighted to be here today to be able to present to you phased retirement offered through Smart Schools Plus. Our company was started in 2002 by our president, Sandy McClelland, who happens to be my mom, as she reached retirement eligibility at the age of 54, and she had about 32 years of experience in the ASRS system. And she was eligible to retire, but not yet ready to leave the workforce. And she realized that she couldn't afford to stay. So she was gonna go and get, she actually received a position with Southwest Airlines to do leadership training. But after doing some research about the need for the public and private sector to implement phased retirement programs, Smart Schools Plus was born. Since 2002, we have provided phased retirement to over 85 school districts throughout Arizona. And some of those districts are such as Gilbert, Chandler, Paradise Valley, Deer Valley, In 2009, we launched SmartWorks Plus, our parent company, and SmartWorks provides phased retirement services to city and state agencies all throughout the state. And we have Coolidge, Florence, all various counties, the Arizona Supreme Court system. And we employ about 400 to 450 people across the state. I'd like to present a brief overview of phased retirement to you. If you have any questions during the presentation, by all means, interrupt me, and hopefully we'll be able to address those. You should have all received one of these packets. And I'm just going to kind of go through this a little bit, and we'll go from there. This is an opportunity, this is an opportunity to provide the opportunity for employees who are eligible to retire within the Arizona State Retirement System, to allow them to retire, start drawing their pension. They would become our employees, and we would contract them back immediately to their same position or for one in which they're qualified. It allows the school district to gain budget capacity, to really retain that institutional knowledge from all of those employees that you've invested so much in training throughout the years. And also you could look at it as a way to reward your veteran loyal workforce. The ASRS return to work rules state that if you retire and start drawing your pension, you have to sit out for 12 months before you can come back to work full-time, or work at the 20/20 rule, or part-time for 12 months before you can come back to work full-time without taking penalty to your pension. However, these rules do not apply for non-ASRS employers. So going back to Sandy's example, she was going to retire, start drawing her pension, go to work for Southwest Airlines. She could do that because they are a private company. Smart Schools Plus is also that private company. So they'd become our employees, and we would just contract them right back. The alternate contribution rate, some of you may know about this. In about 2009, 2010, we started working with the Arizona State Retirement System to look at the return to work impact on the overall system, to see if there was a negative impact by more people drawing from the pension that were contributing to it. And what they found was that it contributed to about a 0.0012% rise in contribution rate. So it was so far right of the decimal point, it had a negligible effect. However, the perception of it was a little bit different. So working with the ASRS, we co-authored legislation to create the alternate contribution rate, which means that for anybody who has retired and has come back to work, whether it be through us or through, after they've sat out there 12 months, an alternate contribution rate, which is at 9.2%, has to go back to the Arizona State Retirement System to make sure that there's no negative imbalance that's being created to the fund by hiring a return to work individual. Now that it's been online for a year, they've just released the data that about $22 million has been captured by the fund, and it's actually helping to lower the regular contribution rates by 0.22%. So it was actually an unintended consequence or effect that's now been having on the system, that the money that's being gathered is actually helping to lower the contribution rates for everybody that's in the system. Eligibility for ASRS employees. Whoops. Actually, I don't think you guys have that slide. So to be ASRS eligible to retire, you have to have your 80 points, your years of service plus your age. You could be 62 years of age with 10 years or over the age of 65. Those that are eligible, we would recommend for any employee that would be a prospective employee of ours, that they would be currently in good standing with the school district, that they would maintain appropriate certification and endorsements, for certified employees, that they would achieve their highly effective status, and also highly effective for their final evaluation. For classified and administrative, achieve satisfactory performance rating final year prior to retirement. They would also receive the recommendation from their supervisor to participate in the program, and that they would maintain all appropriate certifications and endorsements. We all have a working career path, and somewhere along that working career path, we become eligible to retire. What we're suggesting is to bridge that gap from that individual reaching retirement eligibility, participate in phased retirement, for X number of years. And we're not necessarily extending somebody's career path, we're just allowing them to increase their gross earnings by drawing their pension plus a salary. From the employee's perspective, I'd like to show you this slide right here of how it's beneficial for them and the incentive for them. We're going to take a $50,000 a year individual, and they have 30 years of experience, and they would be at the 2.3 graded multiplier, which is the way they calculate their pension. So they would be receiving roughly 69% of their salary as their pension, or about $34,500. As a Smart Schools employee, we would contract them back at 80% or whatever the district came up with. Have you guys determined, or 80? So we would contract them back at 80% or $40,000. So this individual who before was making 50 is now drawing their pension of 34.5 plus the 40 to increase it to 74.5, or an increase of about 50%. So that's where the incentive is for this. Additionally, that individual is no longer making the ASRS matching contribution of 11.54% because they're retired. So realistically, they're achieving about 91.54% of their previous year's earnings. So it's highly, highly incentivizing for people to participate in this program who are eligible to retire.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Sorry. So going back to the previous slide, the 80%, is that 80% of what we're paying them now?
Correct. We would base it off of their exiting salary.
So that was determined by HR, RHR? Yeah?
Under recommendation, yes.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Is the 50,000 the number, the ballpark number for someone who would exit the system at retirement age? Or would it be higher than that, given that they've got 20 years of, or however many years of service under their belt?
We found, and this is our slide that we put together, we usually provide the example at $50,000 because we find that that's kind of an average number that we find as employees that are coming on board with us. We have the upper level employee, superintendents, principals, but we also employ bus drivers or cafeterias. So that we find that that's kind of a median average to just show for the example.
And the reason you're paying 80% of their prior year is because you can?
Well, that's where the uniqueness of this concept comes in. So we not only want to incentivize people to participate in this program by increasing their gross earnings, but depending on how an entity decides to construct a program, by offering a offered salary amount that's 80% less, and I'll show you here on this next slide, but you also achieve a cost savings of about 30% per employee. So, and we can get to that on the next slide to see where the benefit is for the district to participate and implement a program like this would be. Any more questions on this slide before we move on?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Maybe answer the next slide.
Okay, so there's a lot of information on this slide, but I want you to look at this first column that says district, and we're going to take that same individual at $50,000. To currently employ that individual, you have the Social Security, the FICA, Medicare, workers' comp, unemployment, and whatnot. So the total employment benefit cost is about $4,300. Additionally, you're also making the 11.54% ASRS matching contribution of about $5,700, and you're also paying for health insurance, which we estimated to be about $4,800. So really, to employ that $50,000 a year individual, it costs the district about $64,955. And again, these are just ballpark figures that we just estimated. By participating in our program of bringing them in at the 80%, and you can look at the middle column where it says SS Plus without insurance, because since you guys don't offer health insurance for retirees, we're going to look at this middle column. So as a Smart Schools employee, we would contract them back in at $40,000 as a salary. Their employee benefit costs immediately go down. We have a 4% service fee, which takes care of all of our overhead and operating expenses and 401k management. There's no longer the ASRS matching contribution of 11.54%, but there would now be the alternate contribution rate of 9.2% on that $40,000. So that amount goes down. And there's no longer the health insurance costs. So before, to employ that $50,000 a year individual, it cost $64,955. It now costs the district $48,854, or a savings of about $16,101, or roughly about 25%. So that's where the incentive is for entities to participate and implement these programs, because you'll have most organizations throughout the state have employees who are eligible to retire but aren't leaving the workforce, or they are leaving the workforce and they're taking that institutional knowledge with them to the private sector. This is a creative way to offer this program to incentivize people to stay, but also to achieve cost savings for that employee that would potentially be staying and working in that position anyways.
I'll ask
Absolutely.
my question, and maybe it's more of an HR question, so
Yeah.
I'm not sure. So out of that 80% that you figured we would base that employee's salary on, is that salary and the benefits, or is that just based on their salary that they draw, that 80%?
That would be just their salary.
Just their salary, so it's 80% of their salary?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else that's tied to the salary, though, would be adjusted by the same amount,
Correct.
so.
Any other questions before we move on from this slide? By entering into a service agreement with Smart Schools Plus, you would receive all of these different benefits. We have an incredible lobbyist by the name of Kevin DeMena that keeps us abreast of everything that's going on with the legislature regarding return to work issues, regarding, all kinds of crazy things that are going on there. We also have study sessions that we can do with the board, on-site support for any employee that would require it. We have a 401k program that we offer for all of our employees because they are increasing their gross earnings, that we offer, that's voluntary for them, that they could help defer some of their taxes. We have some incredible financial advisors that are experts within the Arizona State retirement system that we implore any prospective employee to sit down and meet with to make sure that phased retirement is right for them. We always coin the term, or the adage that there's no one right way to retire, but there are plenty of wrong ways, and we just want to make sure that people are making the best decision of retirement that's best for them and their family and their situation. We're also on, we have a SAVE agreement and also Mojave, so it would be very easy for the district to just attach onto that through Mesa Public Schools. And with that, I'll open it up to questions.
Who are your two biggest competitors, and how are your services different?
We have one other competitor, Educational Services Incorporated, or ESI. We offer very similar programs. We pride ourselves on the financial advising component piece of making sure that people are making the best decision. Their approach is a little bit different in that regard. But when you're looking at the general scope of things, they're similar programs.
What, the other districts that you service, what percent of salary do they participate with?
There's a range that's going anywhere from about 75% all the way up to 90 to 95%. As a company, we typically recommend 80% because we found that to be the magic number that not only incentivizes people to participate in the program, but also achieves the greatest amount of cost savings because you've increased your participation levels. So basically, for the more people that you have that would participate in this, the greater the cost savings would be. And we found that 80% is about that magic number.
Okay, good answer.
I have questions. Because I was just totally confused.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is just for our current MUSD employees, correct?
Correct.
So you wouldn't send us anybody just from your pool of,
No. And in fact, we really don't even keep a pool of people.
Okay.
We look at organizations and entities, and we look at your current employee group who are eligible to retire. And then we would offer this program to them And then after they go through an informational seminar that we would provide a group study session for any prospective employee. Basically, we would work with HR to create some census data to get anybody over the age of 50. Because we don't know, you guys may know how many years of service they have working with the district, but we don't know if they have years of service that they could purchase elsewhere. So we would just send out, whether it be an email, whether it be a mailer or a flyer in the district email, we would provide some sort of informational meeting that they could hear from our company, how this could benefit them and also the district.
Okay, so the employees then, once they take part of this program, they are considered employees of the district or employees of you?
They would be employees of ours, but they would still have to adhere to all of the same rules and regulations and the district guidelines that would be set before them.
And then how would that affect their evaluations in the 301?
Their evaluation would be still done by their supervisor. We have an additional evaluation tool that we would like to attach on that evaluation. And then as far as 301 money, we have districts that pay that to Smart Schools employees, and we have others that don't. And that really comes down to how you guys would like to construct this program to offer that to them. I would suggest that, just for morale's sake, for both current employees and prospective employees, to keep things constant with what every other employee got.
But if they're not technically employees of the district?
Then you wouldn't have to. You wouldn't have to pay them.
Okay.
But that's up to, again.
And this is going to be a question for you, Mr. Beckett, so just prepare yourself. How many employees do we have close to retirement? I mean, we've got a lot of pretty young teachers and employees. Are we looking at a large number of?
Member Couture, no, we're not looking at a large number at this point in time. But again, that's one of the things we would take a look at once we had a service agreement approved and send that out. But we would consider all employees that would be eligible for this, though.
And what is the fee involved in this?
As I showed you in the slide before, we have a 4% service fee. So we would invoice the district 4% of whatever the offered salary amount is, so whatever the 80% amount would be.
And that would just be whatever employee decided to phase into this. We don't have to guarantee a certain number or?
Absolutely not. If you have 0 employees, we just have a service agreement that's sitting in a file drawer. But if there is one person on board, then we would invoice, not only the employee benefit costs like the Social Security, FICA, Medicare, but then also that 4% service fee.
Okay. And Mr. Beckett, as if they're not district employees, how does that affect any of our grant programs, professional development? Does that affect anything that we could spend our monies on for these contracted employees?
If I'm understanding, Member Couture, your question, the whole package is a savings to the district. So, I mean, we're
Right.
not really losing anything from
Right.
any of the programs. Again, the same expectations for their behavior and their performance are all the same
As
we
if they
would.
were employees?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And that 4% is paid by the district.
Correct.
Okay?
As I understand it, we have done this in past years with the competitive firm, the competitor. And last year, I believe we had one employee, Art Fenster, a science teacher at the high school that was on this program. And it was a great way to get Art to be with us for one more year. And I think we had hoped that that would continue even beyond that, but for whatever reason, it didn't. But he was a good teacher, and it was a way to extend his career one more year with us. So that's the kind of person we're looking for in this program.
What happened to that relationship with the other company that necessitated this, or are both companies being considered moving forward?
That's a good question. They're both on the state Mojave list, so we have the ability to just strike a deal with them. We have not had a presentation from the other group this year. Apparently it has happened in the past.
So we don't know what their service fee is? Can we find out? Thank you. I don't have any other questions. Does anybody else?
Absolutely. All right, thank you very much. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Dr. Chestnut, real quick, what, do we have a deadline that we have to make the decision by? Okay.
It's just one of those tools we need in our bag of tricks that we'd like to advertise to employees. Last year we had 27% new teachers to the district. This year it's 25%. Even if we could just keep one more retiree for 1 year, it would help that percentage. So that's the idea, and the sooner we get people thinking about that, the better off we are.
Mr. Watson? I don't know if you were waiting for me to speak or Dr. Chestnut to speak.
President Anderson, Governing Board, Dr. Chestnut. Tonight I was asked to come and speak to you about Beyond Textbooks. Normally I feel like I would speak to you at length, whether you wanted me to or not, because it has to do with curriculum and I can get a little carried away. But it just so happens that when I was speaking with the Beyond Textbook people this week, they happen to have a video that has a really nice summary of Beyond Textbooks, so I don't want you to feel like I didn't have enough information that I could present it on my own, but hopefully this might be more brief than me, and it also includes some pretty cool visuals that I would not have been able to reproduce in the form of a PowerPoint. So hopefully it'll be very informative, and then I'll fill in any gaps they leave out for you.
So you made it easy on yourself.
Yes, this time. If technology cooperates with
That's
us.
right.
Hello and welcome. My name is Kevin Carney. I'm the Executive Director of the Beyond Textbooks Program for the Vail School District located in the state of Arizona. What I'd like to do with you today is I'd like to share the answer to the question, what is Beyond Textbooks? In order to answer that question, we have to go back in time. I want to show this snapshot of Vail and how we performed academically at the time. Although this is one grade level and one subject, this was indicative of where we were. We were performing below the state average. We are in fact a mediocre school district. This was us. We had a lot of happy people doing a lot of good things, but the proverbial left hand did not know what the right hand was doing. So we put some research-based frameworks in place, and we started to have some tremendous success. In fact, for the past 2 years within the state of Arizona, we've been ranked as the #1 school district when it comes to student achievement. We're now a place where we still have happy people who get along really well, but we have an outstanding framework for how we go about increasing student achievement. This collaborative framework is built upon the philosophy beyond textbooks called planning, teaching, and sharing. And not only has it been working really well in the Vail School District, but it's now working with 78 partners across the state of Arizona. School districts, charter schools, they're all partnering with this framework. And we're also excited because with the advent of the Common Core, we look to say, can people outside the state of Arizona partner with us and have them learn from us and us from them as well? So with that backdrop in mind, as we answer that question, what is Beyond Textbooks, we want to focus in on two things. One, a new way of planning and collaboration. And two, how can you become a Beyond Textbooks partner if you indeed are interested? So let's focus on number one, a new way of planning and collaboration. And what we're going to do is we're going to give you a little lens into how teachers with Beyond Textbooks go about planning. What I've pulled up here is a curriculum calendar where the standards that I have to teach are embedded within this. The great thing, it's digitized, and so this creates efficiencies because I can plan anytime, anywhere. Now, as I look at this right now, you can see it's 5th grade as I circle with my cursor, and we're just talking math. Certainly, I could look at different grade levels. I could look at a month view of the standards if I wanted to. I could look at a year view. I could look at various subjects, but we're just going to focus in on math for the simplicity of today's presentation. I'm going to focus in specifically on this specific standard right here. So what would happen is the teacher says, okay, I have 10 days to teach this particular standard. Are there any resources to help me with my planning? So they would click on this little link here. It says BT link, where I'm circling with my cursor. And that would take them to a wiki page for that particular standard. Now, a couple of features here on this wiki page. One, you see this long, drawn-out explanation of that particular standard. That's tough for teachers and kids to understand. So the first thing that we do is we create what's called a student-friendly objective to make the learning more simplistic in the idea that it's trying to be conveyed. After that, we have curriculum documents. These are planning resources to help teachers plan for mastering that particular standard. So the first thing we have is what's called the unwrapped document. It's that document, a planning guide that we use to unwrap the standards to say, what does good enough look like? What do our students need to be able to do and know to show mastery? After taking a look at this particular planning document, the next thing they do is they go on back to their wiki, close out a few windows here, and they would pull up what's called their common formative assessment. This is just a quick 5-question dipstick measurement that's used to ascertain, A, did students master this standard, and B, where do I go next with my instruction? Now, in addition to the unwrapped document and that common formative assessment, we also have some other documents here that are helpful to teachers. One, we have something called the POW, or the problem of the week. What this is this is just a higher level problem to say, let's take a look if students have indeed, again, mastered that particular standard. Now, as we scroll further down the page, here's where the collaborative piece comes into place and something we get really excited about. Here are resources that are submitted by teachers from all across the state of Arizona who are beyond textbooks partners. For example, here's a resource from a teacher in Phoenix, Arizona. Then I see a resource from a teacher here in, where's she at? There she is. I know she's somewhere. She's in Vail, Arizona. Let's hone in on this one here by Josh Burke. So let's say I wanted to see what Josh has in mind for me. What I would do is I would click on the hyperlink, and it takes me to a separate wiki page. And there I would find Josh's particular resource that he's uploaded, open it up, and see what Josh has. Okay, he has some sample problems here for my kids to practice on. Now, not only can I download resources, but if I choose to, and I have success with something I use in my classroom, I can upload it for other folks to use as well. So that's just a quick drive on how our teachers plan and collaborate with each other. Let's also point out that with this planning and collaboration, teachers have caught the fever. They are uploading resources right and left. At this time, we have over 20,000 resources in our collaborative wiki, all assigned to specific standards at specific grade levels for specific subjects. Let's take a look at how you can become a BT partner next, if that's something that's of interest to you. You know, when we first started partnering with other school districts, we made some mistakes, and we've learned some lessons along the way. The first thing that we did was we thought, you know what? We'll just give them access to our playbook. In other words, our Beyond Textbooks Wiki, and they'll be ready to go. Yeah, that didn't work so well. So what we realized is not only did we need to give them access, but we had to back that up with a professional development series and work really hard on building trusting and caring relationships in order for our partners to experience greater success. So when somebody contacts us and says, hey, we'd like to become a Beyond Textbooks partner, how do we do that? Well, here's what we do in terms of our professional development series to provide support. The first thing that we have to do is something called a Gaining the Vision meeting, where we meet with district and site level administration for a 2-hour overview to say, here's what Beyond Textbooks is, what do you think? If they like it, we say super. We're honored by that. But tell you what, we want to have that same exact meeting with these same exact players, but this time, bring some of your key teacher leaders to this meeting. Because we want them to give this the sniff test. We want you both to have conversation so that there can be a shoulder-to-shoulder approach between administration and teachers to decide if you want to move forward. If after that second Getting the Vision meeting you decide, yes, we'd love to move forward, then we do what's called the BT Leadership Retreat. 2 6-hour days where we get together with administration and key teacher leaders, and we go in depth over those 7 key BT starting points that we have in place, and we help facilitate an implementation plan for your organization. We then come out to every single school site and we do BT 101, a 3.5-hour training, where we go over again those 7 key philosophies, the 7 key BT starting points, and we show your folks how to technically navigate this wiki. We then come back halfway through the year after you've been using it, and we say we want to look in your eye, we want to hear what's going well, what's not going so well, what questions do you have, and then we show your staff additional ways to navigate the wiki that we don't show them in 101 so that we don't overwhelm people on the computers in that 101 training. We also have an intervention piece in place. It's a training called Reteach and Enrich, where we say, based upon data that you're using from those formative assessments, what do you do next if students don't show mastery? Or what do you do if those kids do indeed show mastery the first time around? How do you enrich them? We also have free monthly trainings via webinar or face-to-face. All these trainings are congruent to the 7 key starting points of BT. And then we have unlimited phone call and email support. You call us, we're going to get back to you quickly. And we also hope you come visit us and talk to some of our staff members and see what this looks like inside our schools and inside our classrooms. What's the goal of BT? Well, it's pretty simplistic. We've had some really good success with this, and we think it's incumbent upon us to share our ideas with others if they'd like to improve student achievement too. So what we do is we say, hey, we want to help others move the needle if they're interested in partnering with them with regard to Beyond Textbooks. So with that in mind, we want to close up with just saying, hey, if you are interested in Beyond Textbooks, we encourage you to reach out to us, to read up some more on our website there, beyondtextbooks.org. Also, you'll find what is our plan for our transition to the Common Core. We are indeed Common Core ready, and we're excited to have you find out about what the things are that we're doing to be prepared for indeed the Common Core. As we close, I want to say thank you for joining us. Again, my name is Kevin Carney, the Executive Director of Beyond Textbooks. Got a little excited as I was ending there. Sorry about that. And I want to say thank you again for joining us as you found out what is Beyond Textbooks. Thank you and have a good day.
All right, so as you know, we've already adopted Beyond Textbooks, and we went through a lot of those steps that he already mentioned. We actually just had our second professional development today, the BT 102 training across the district, and I was able to sit in on that at a few of the sites today, and it went really well. So aside from that, like I say, I could talk to you about a lot of things dealing with Beyond Textbooks, but I'll let you fire away with some questions, and hopefully I'll fill in whatever information might be missing here.
How long has, how long has Vail used Beyond Textbooks, and how long did it take for them to see an increase in their test scores?
I believe in the presentation it was 2008 that they started,
Okay.
and they saw results within the first year of using it.
So their teachers, let me rephrase that, are teachers able to catch up pretty quickly? I mean, it seems like a lot of windows to click here and click there. Are they able to practice that and get that going?
Prior to the year starting, there is that training and that professional development, and there's that hands-on time to work with it. Again, they come out, like I said, they just came out today. They give you some time to get used to it before they come out, and then kind of do some more individualized practice time as well as guidance throughout the system. So I guess I would say it really depends on the teacher. Some are more technology savvy than others, and for those that struggle at all with the technology, we have all our RTI coaches out on site who really help. I get phone calls and emails pretty routinely on it, and as you know, I just started in August, so I studied up very quickly, watched a lot of webinars, made a lot of phone calls, so I feel like I'm about 2 steps ahead of them most days. So I can troubleshoot it as it comes. So I would say as far as the technology piece, hasn't really been a significant issue so far.
I'm excited. I mean, as a teacher, it's like, wow, there's so many resources available. So I'm impressed.
Yeah.
If I may ask, and I don't know if you'll know this, but how are the teachers responding to this?
That's a great question. I think that it's been very mixed responses. I think any time that you roll out something that's going to be a district-wide curriculum that's different than what they were doing, you all know that change is difficult for some and others just roll with it. I like to joke that the older we get, the harder change is. That's how I feel sometimes, but they're rolling well with it. I think that it's been an adjustment period. I think there were a lot of questions up front. I feel like Krista and myself answered a lot of questions and got information for them in the beginning, but it seems to be slowing, and it's as if they're getting more comfortable with it. I think some really want to adjust it. And there is some room for an adjustment because it is basically a framework. It doesn't dictate how you teach things or what resources you bring in and that type of thing. It really is a curriculum framework to guide you in a progression. of tasks and concepts. So there is room for that individualization, and I think that's the part that teachers are really figuring out. Like, how do I still bring in some of those favorite units that I wanted to teach, but still be in alignment with the standards in the way that they're laid out in Beyond Textbooks, so that when I hit those formative assessments and those summative assessments, I'll really be able to gauge the effectiveness of my teaching, which is one of the strongest components of the BT program, is being able to gauge your instruction and how effective it is, and letting you know, oh, I need to go back and reteach that. They didn't get it as well as I thought they did. So.
One other question, and as we move forward with our schools defining their focus for their charters, are they going to be able to implement this as well? Or will these have to be tweaked per school?
I genuinely believe that they would not have to be tweaked, because, again, they're a very simple framework, and the standards are the standards. State standards, Common Core standards are the standards. No matter what your academic focus is, you'll still be held accountable for those standards, and you still have to teach those. I think the great thing is when the piece comes in with the academic focus, that, again, is going to bring in those special projects and those contents and the way that things are taught, which BT completely allows for, because, again, it's just that framework to guide you in a progression. That being said, if we needed to change the progression or the alignment, we're open to do that. We obviously didn't want to do it the first year, because we really want to see how this works and learn the alignment, and if we were to go in and tweak and adjust things, I think that that would be opening a can of worms to make this less successful and not give us a real valid test of how the system works. But we've had discussions about, as we see things, would we want to adjust? And we're taking notes throughout the year. We've encouraged our teachers and coaches and principals to take notes on things that they like and don't like, because we do have the freedom to adjust the alignment if we needed to.
Thank you.
You bet.
Is this just a tool for our teachers to use at their discretion, or are they required to implement this?
They're required. They're required to use Beyond Textbooks.
Was this founded by the folks at Vail, or are they just the dealer, if you will, for Arizona?
It was actually founded by Vail. Yep. I think one of the other cool components to it is that we were already using ATI Galileo as our assessment program, and they have been using ATI Galileo. So for their summative assessments that they have already submitted and created, we no longer are required to submit our own assessments to ATI Galileo, because they're already there from what Vail has created. I will tell you at the secondary level, because one of the things that we want to do is use some of these assessments as part of our semester exams. We have the freedom, because we have access to ATI Galileo, to supplement their assessments to make them more like a semester assessment, but still get the data that was gathered from the heart of the BT assessment, and then get a little bit more for semester assessment purposes. So it marries very nicely with ATI Galileo, so that was another good sell for us on that.
Thank you.
Absolutely, thank
Any
you.
other questions? No?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. That brings us to 5C, our review of our monthly financial report for July of 2013. Mr. Roush, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Roush? No? Okay. Seeing none, we will move on. That brings us to the consent agenda, and we have taken out item B, which is the minutes, so that would be the only change to that. Are there any motions?
Move to approve the consent agenda?
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. All right, so now that brings us to 6B, which is moved into action items. These are the minutes from the September 11th Governing Board meeting, and Mr. Bartle, you had a question on those?
Yes, first and foremost, this comes with apologies to Mrs. Hahn, who specifically started a new tradition after our last meeting of sending these minutes to us early so we could vet some of these things out before the board meeting. So my apologies for not taking advantage of that. I just, on page 3, under the Proposition 301 pay for performance plan notes, I would request that those be amended to include my comments as well.
Which were what? Or do you want to go back on the tape?
Yeah, I mean, she can summarize it sufficiently. I don't need to rehash that, but would like
Come
to have it
on,
on the
verbatim,
record.
come on,
so.
go for it. Just giving you a hard time.
So I would move that we table these until the next meeting in anticipation of Mrs. Hahn making some additions to that item.
Well, do we need to table it, or can we approve it knowing that she can go back to the tape and just insert those? You want to wait and see
It
them?
doesn't
Okay.
matter, that's fine, we can be done with it. I trust Mrs. Hahn.
So-
Motion's on the floor to table this item.
Okay. So we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of tabling the approval of the minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. So we'll put those on the next agenda. Thank you. All right, 7A. Mr. Beckett. This is our HR schedule.
Thank you, President Anderson, members of the governing board, Dr. Chestnut. You have the personnel schedule in front of you tonight. I'll entertain your questions.
I don't have any.
He looks at me. No, I don't.
All right.
I move to approve the HR schedule.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beckett.
7B, discussion and possible approval of changing the board meeting starting time to 6:30 or 7 p.m. I requested this be put on the agenda, mainly because it's been brought up several times that people work and it's hard to get to meetings starting at 6. So I would just like to know your thoughts on starting possibly at 6:30 or 7.
I'm okay with either time.
Because I know that some of you travel for work. I also know that parents aren't getting home until usually 6 o'clock. I don't know if that would make a difference, but how would that, any thoughts?
Well, I guess I'd ask Dr. Chestnut, how would that affect staff, or would it, to the point that we also have folks leaving here to go home, so and we want them to be fresh in their administrating and teaching duties the next day, so.
That was my question too, so.
That's why we have it at 6.
You know, I think it's still a reasonable start time. I think it's not a major issue, and maybe for a few individuals, it's going to make a longer evening, but I don't think it's a huge difference.
All right. Which time do you like, Mrs. Knorr? 'Cause you travel from Phoenix, right?
Yes.
And parents, I just know parents would prefer, parents I've talked to have asked for 7, but I don't know if that would make it too late. So do we?
If we continue with being intentional with what we talk about and how we talk about it, and have efficient meetings, I don't think that's a problem. It's when we are talking about things we're not supposed to be talking about, and we have 3-hour meetings, then it's going to become a problem. But
Yeah, I'm fine with either time. I can make either work. So I with the 7, I have the same concerns if we have 3-hour meetings and we're not getting out of here until
Right.
10, and that does.
But we're not going to have 3-hour meetings.
Okay, great, then I'm all for it.
All right, well, I prefer 6:30. I think that's just a little bit later, so people have a chance to tune in and get in front of their TV set. And Dr. Chestnut, your advice?
I think that'd be fine.
Okay, so do we have a motion?
Is this something that's in our policy?
I checked the policy, and it doesn't specify the time. We just
Okay.
have to have a motion and, then announce it.
And
So-
when would we make this effective?
I would say the very next meeting, starting our first meeting in October,
Our first regular or special?
our first regular meeting.
Okay.
Because the special meeting's already scheduled for 6.
Okay.
So I would say the first regularly scheduled board meeting in October, which is the 9th.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're right. It's a month.
Okay, so any other discussion or motions on changing the meeting time?
I move that we change our board meeting times to start at 6:30 with our first regular meeting on October 9th.
Okay, we have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So our board meeting, starting on October 9th, will start at 6:30. Yay. Okay, that brings us to our policy section, which is the most interesting part of the agenda.
So all we have to do is.
Okay,
Very
discussion and possible approval of sorry, I just got the wrong window here. First reading updated policy B 1700, agenda. Is there any discussion on the changes?
Mine's not coming up.
Mr. Bartle?
There it is.
I have a few suggestions. One is in the second paragraph states, unless changed by majority vote of board members present at a meeting, the order of business shall be as follows. Now, according to our policy, we are currently in violation of that, given the fact that we've stipulated that that is the order. For example, we don't review the board meeting minutes immediately after the Pledge of Allegiance. So my recommendation is we change that to say, unless changed by a majority vote of board members present at a meeting, the items of business, if applicable, shall be as follows. So the board has the ability to address those items in whatever order they so choose.
It looks like the only thing that they want us to add is this underlined. Is that correct? Is that really necessary, or, I mean, for our policy as it stands now?
Notice must be specified as the type of report that will be given, subject matter, and whom will be making the report.
Yeah, can't we just add that to what we currently have in our policy?
That's what this is doing.
No, this isn't our current policy, is it?
Yes. This is our current policy right now. What they're
But I
adding is
thought-
the line.
But I thought we had changed that to like something similar to what Mr. Bartle had said, so that we were not,
So that
subject to this exact order.
yes, so that begs a question. Is the
we'd
recommended
already
changes
done
that ASBA is providing us based on their templated version, or is it tailored to our existing policy?
It's a template for all districts. And I think the main point, the underlying portion is to just reemphasize a practice we already follow, and that is that according to Arizona law, I'm really the only person that can have kind of an open-ended report. On the superintendent's report, it just says additional information, right?
Right, but that issue aside, my bigger concern is we are approving policies that are trumping policies that we've already amended. Because if this being case in point, in the last year or two, we changed policy BEDB from whatever ASBA's generic template was, right?
Okay.
So we have our own policy BEDB. Then ASBA comes to us and says, hey, here's a suggested change for the generic that they send out to everybody. We approve that generic, and we've just gotten rid of all the prior changes that we made to our own policy. If ASBA's suggestions aren't then applied to our existing policy and compared and see what the difference is. Does that make sense?
Right, yeah, it does. 95% of our policies are the same, but yeah, I didn't double check this one to see if it matches with our current policy. I thought it did, but maybe it doesn't. That's what you're saying, right?
Correct.
Yeah, because where it says regular meetings, we changed the order. So,
Okay. Well, we
Yeah,
should,
we did.
we should probably just bring this back, matched
Yeah.
up better to our own policy. That was my mistake there. Be glad to do that.
And the same for the rest. I mean, any policy change
Right.
needs to be compared to our current policy, not ASBA's generic policies.
And when I pull it up, because I pulled up our policy, gotta love board docs, and it is, we did change it, so we do need just to add that to ours.
Sure, that's no problem. We can do that for the next meeting.
Okay. So do we just leave this item and don't do anything with it?
We can either table it or,
I move that we table items
Okay.
7, C, D, E, F, and G to ensure that the changes are reflected in our current policies.
so you want a review of our district policies?
Yes, I want to be 100% certain that any change that we are considering making to our policy is to our policy, not to somebody else's policy. So that we don't just
Oh, I get you.
undo what we did at a prior meeting.
Yeah, but some of these I don't think we've even,
I'm fine with tabling it. There's no,
Yeah.
there's no
Okay.
timetable on this. So I'm fine with tabling. Do we
Okay.
do each one of them, or can we just do 7, C, D, E, F, and G?
that was his motion.
Yeah.
I think you can.
Okay, so there is a motion
I'll second it.
and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Everything's been tabled. All right, that brings us to item 8. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We have a motion and
Second.
a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. It is 7:13, and we are adjourned.